So, Senator, first let's talk about this act, the No Nuclear Testing Without Approval Act. Um, First of all, what was the impetus behind this? Why now? Why bring this on Capitol Hill?
Yeah, because we were hearing from the administration, particularly President Trump, talking about starting up explosive nuclear testing again. And as we all know in Nevada, we are the only site for that type of testing to take place. And my concern, I think many of us in the entire delegation, including our leaders and our state leaders, not just now, but in the past in a bipartisan way, we don't want explosive nuclear testing to happen again in Nevada. Last time we did any type of testing was in 1992. And really, the scientists at the national labs, all of the information reports that I have seen do not require explosive nuclear testing. So this bill is simply to require any president, whether it's this one or any future president, if they want to go down that path, they have to come to Congress first. They have to notify Congress, get approval from Congress so that we can weigh in the process. And then the decision itself has to show two things, either a technical need or it's necessary for national security. And so this really then involves Congress, it involves a discussion, and it doesn't leave it up to just one president to be able to make this determination.
We're so used to issues brought up about the repository over at Yucca Mountain, other issues regarding nuclear waste being brought here by the Department of Energy when Governor Sisolak and others didn't know about it until it was almost too late. It was already here. What kind of support is there on Capitol Hill from both sides to try and get something like this up to the White House?
So this piece of legislation, there is support on both sides, and I am talking with our delegation right now. As you know, the delegation, there's other pieces of legislation on this very issue. Congresswoman Titus also is spearheading on the House side legislation that actually removes money out of the budget that prevents any type of testing, explosive nuclear testing to take place. So I also have my colleague here, Senator Markey, who is looking at doing something similar. These are compatible legislation. It's short-term and long-term implications on how we can stop any type of nuclear testing without congressional approval. So there is work that we are doing now to talk to our colleagues. I also have introduced my bill as an amendment into the NDAA that is moving forward right now so that we can continue to have discussion and garner bipartisan support for it.
Getting back though to the issue of the nuclear waste that was brought in, I think it was last year now that I'm trying to dust off my memory a little bit here, but that was sort of brought in under the cover of darkness, for lack of a better description. What guarantee is there for folks here in Nevada that even if, let's say, this law does pass, the federal government could try and do something anyway that we wouldn't know about until a test would have already happened?
Excuse me, as you're talking about the plutonium shipment, we actually called the administration out on it. And if you'll recall, because I sit on Energy Natural Resources, which has oversight over Department of Energy, we're able to mandate changes and require the Department of Energy to enter an agreement with Nevada that, one, they would remove that shipment, and two, that they would not ship any type of nuclear material similar to that into Nevada. So we were able to utilize the position that we have here at the federal level and our oversight capabilities, particularly in the Senate, who has advice and consent over the Secretary of Energy, to take those necessary actions. And on top of that, because this is a bipartisan support, not only was it previously Governor Sandoval, but current Governor Sisolak, again, we were all fighting this. And so the state, rightfully so, sued the Department of Energy, and just recently, as you've seen, entered into an agreement. Similarly, getting the Department of Energy to agree that they will remove the current shipment that was shipped there and will no longer ship a similar type of material into Nevada. Now, with that said, who knows what could happen in the future? I'm not going to speculate, but the goal here is for the entire state of Nevada, all of our delegation, to have a good working relationship with not only the DOE, which has oversight over the NNSA, the Nevada National Security site that is normally the test site, is what we call it. We have oversight. We have a good working relationship with them. The goal will be to make sure that they're candid with us. We are constantly working with them. Senator Rosen and I have regular meetings with Department of Energy, as well as the administrator over that site. We've had several tours of that site. We will continue when we can go out again and safely, when the COVID-19 pandemic allows us to safely tour that site again, we will do so. It requires us to be vigilant and really working with them on a regular basis.
You mentioned that the Trump administration has suggested possibly reinstituting nuclear testing. Does the U.S. need nuclear testing? Does the military need to start resurrecting that again?
No, and that's why this is really for the administration to even make that statement clearly. Did not understand what is happening now with our nuclear stockpile. And that's the importance of the NNSA and the site that we have in Nevada where the nuclear stockpile is. There's some critical experiments going on that can already test the safety and reliability of our nuclear stockpile. There is no need for explosive nuclear testing to even occur. Not only is it safely happening right now where we can test our stockpile, but the directors of the 3 labs that we work with have similarly said the same thing in annual reports to Congress.
Final question here, completely unrelated. This comes from George Knapp. Former Senator Harry Reid previously sponsored a secret Pentagon study about UFOs, related phenomena based here in Las Vegas. After news of that went public back in December of 2017, there have been some closed-door briefings on this. Some of your colleagues on the Armed Services and Intel committees have discussed. Last week, there was news from Florida Senator Marco Rubio. He introduced legislation requiring the Pentagon to make public any unclassified UFO reports. My question is, if you've spoken with former Senator Reid or your current Senate colleagues about this, and would you support opening up these Pentagon files?
Well, I have not spoken to Senator Reid about it, and I have spoken to some of my Senate colleagues who are on the committee. I am not on the committee, so I am not getting and able to get the briefings that they get because I'm not on the committee. So I can't answer that question in full. But I do know that some of my members on the committee and my colleagues are very vigilant. They're very aware of what's going on, and they get their briefings on a regular basis.
But just pure and simple, without getting into maybe the details because you're not aware specifically, do you support the idea of making this public, making these files public?
Well, I don't know what's in the files, so I can't support something that I'm not aware of what's in the files. So I am, again, I think it is something that is clearly important for this country and for us to be aware of at the end of the day. But I can't speculate on something that I'm not aware of what's in the reports.
Fair enough. Senator, thank you for joining us today, and enjoy the 4th.
Thank you. You as well.
Take care.